This is Frederick of HeadlineSurfer.com, and we're here for our second debate of the evening of the 2014 election cycle. And the final debate of the evening is for Volusia County Council, District 3. And before we get to the candidates, I want to introduce the people that are on our panel. Serafina King Frederick is the multimedia editor for Headline Surfer. Maureen France is co-founder of the Volusia Tax Reform. It's the group that keeps an eye on fiscal, make sure the county manager's office is doing with their budgetary due diligence. And she's also the president-elect of Tiger Bay. And what is Tiger Bay, briefly?
It's an organization that's bipartisan, that investigates current issues of the day, and we entertain speakers from mostly national and state level candidacy.
And it would be safe to say that Volusia Tax Reform is a conservative, fiscally conservative organization.
Yes.
And when was it founded?
2006.
With yourself and Margie Patchett.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And over here is the young lady is Dana Swanson. Dana Dougherty Swanson is the chief political blogger for HeadlineSurfer.com, and she lives in DeBary. And she'll be asking some questions in a short while. I want to introduce, and I want to thank the audience for being here on a cloudy, had some thunder clouds already and some noise. I want to welcome the candidates. There are 3 candidates for Volusia County Council District 3 heading into the August 26th primary. What happens is there'll be early voting a week or so beforehand. Then on August 26th, if one of the 3 gets 50% plus 1 vote, they are the next county District 3 County Council representative. To my left is, on the left hand by the American flag, is Justin Kennedy, a former Edgewater City Councilman who was in the 2012 race for District 3. To his next to him is David Machuga of New Smyrna Beach, who's a newcomer to, this is your first elected race.
Right.
And to his, seated to, well, the incumbent, Deb Denys, there was no response, so we sent out numerous, as we stated in our articles today, we sent out numerous overtures to Ms. Denys as well as the entire county council to have everybody on the same page. And so we'll get started with the public candidate debate. If you gentlemen are ready, let's get going.
Let's answer your question.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, candidate Kennedy, tell us what you learned from the last election cycle, the last go-around, when it was you and Ms. Denys and Mr. Jim Hathaway, the longtime New Smyrna commissioner.
Well, first, Henry, let me thank you for the opportunity to do this. It's important to me that the public come out and get to know us, every one of us, and make a choice based on information that's true. You know, you get a chance to talk to people and the partisanship aside and all the other issues aside, and you get to know the candidates and develop some trust with them. And I'm thoroughly impressed with the crowd here tonight. I think if we were in New Smyrna Beach, we'd probably have half the crowd. So kudos to Oak Hill for producing people who actually care enough to get it right. With that said, gosh, running for political office at the city level is a lot different than running for a city or a county office, the county level. I learned some things about running a campaign, and I also learned a lot of things about Volusia County, Southeast Volusia County in particular. Some of those things, some of those issues still exist today, 2 years later, that were on the campaign 2 years ago, and we're still talking about them today with no solution.
Well, we'll get to that as we move along.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about in terms of what you learn running for office in Volusia County.
Ladies and gentlemen,
writing a book about it, perhaps.
yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try not to stick to hard and fast clocks. We tried that 2 years ago, and it was a disaster. So we just try to keep it fluid without giving speeches, but you know, you're right on target. David Machuga, tell us, this is your first foray into elected office. Tell us a little bit about yourself outside of politics.
Outside of politics, basically, I'm a retired chiropractor from Western PA, involved in quite a few businesses. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a rasp in my throat. Involved in many businesses, worked with a lot of people, been involved in politics in New Smyrna Beach, the county, for probably the last 8 years. I've helped people in their campaigns, have watched people develop and say things that not deliver. And this is one of the things that had me interested in running, because of things that have occurred and things that didn't occur, and making sure that we can put things in the right track. And one thing I will say, it's been a short run when you're on this side of the campaign versus helping. And I did learn a lot of things already, and I do take my hat off to you for running again, because it's an experience that sometimes we can't train for or understand. By understanding the people, knowing what they want, and trying to make it work at a county level or city level, it's a little more difficult than just making a speech. And this is where a lot of the problems run into in our community, in our government. And these are the things that I was able to observe and being able to work with. That's where I stand on these things. That's a little bit about me. Mainly it's about you, the people. It's not about us politicians. The suits in front of you change all the time. Every election you're going to have change, and some will remain the same. The important issue is what the people need, the people want, and what the people can get by the elected suits at the current time. So it's not about us. Trust me, it's not about he and I. It's about you out there.
Candidate Machuga, let me follow up with you, and then we'll get to Mr. Kennedy. Jason Davis was the surprise candidate for the 2012 elections for county chair. Ted Doran was a high-profile attorney. Carl Persis was a well-known county councilman from Ormond Beach, put in a lot of years under tutelage of Franklin and others. What is a politician? It's like a bad omen. I mean, Jason Davis says, I'm not a politician, but aren't you once you get elected, or even when you're running? I know it's a tough question to ask.
No, it's an easy question to ask if you're married. If you're married, you understand being a politician is very simple. It's yes, dear, and do the right thing. That's it. Being a politician is the same thing, saying yes to the right things and doing the right things.
And you mentioned empty suit.
It's not just empty suit, it's the idea of the direction that we're getting involved in. That is the key issues, where we're going to lead to in the future. So when the suits change up front, the direction is correct. That's what's important. Same as in a marriage, you have to have those goals. And I'm looking at your little daughter there, and I remember the last time I saw you and Justin was at one of your fundraisers. And she was smaller, and basically my youngest was 13. So that's the important things, not us. We're trying to make sure that people understand that we're working for you.
Mr. Kennedy, you had a lot going for you in the last go-around. You have a lot of endorsements. You were the up-and-coming young, a lot of, there was not much infusion of new blood at the age group, from working families. You finished short. You finished third in the race. Of course, it's nonpartisan, but let's be real about it. Jim Hathaway is a longtime Democrat. You were a Democrat in Edgewater. Ms. Denys is a Republican. How much does partisanship play into nonpartisan races? And the second part of that, and it's a tough thing, but if you could quickly answer it, would you want to see partisan local and county races? Do you think that would infuse more of the electorate? Because it seems like it's nonpartisan. What do you think?
It's very partisan. To a certain point, it's 100% partisan. Until you get down to the grassroots voter. And all of us know on both sides, whatever party you belong to, all of our friends say, well, I like to pick the best candidate. The problem we have these days in a small election, and these are all small campaigns, we don't have the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to advertise. So we have a problem with getting our message out and people getting to know us, because we just don't have the dollars that it takes to really craft and deliver that message. So if we were to go partisan, perhaps we'd have more dollars, but then we'd be divided. And I'm convinced that the parties themselves serve themselves and only themselves. And the more I get involved, the more I see that on both sides, that the party exists for the party. And I see that from some of the candidates they back. They ought to be embarrassed, whichever party it is. Both parties have bad, empty suit candidates, but yet they have a letter behind their name that makes them our guy. And then they're expected to get into office and toe that line.
Let me interrupt and throw something that either of you can jump in. I didn't know this until really 2 years ago, that you elect people to run for office, and you have city council in Edgewater, city commission in New Smyrna Beach, city commission here in Oak Hill. What is council commission? I'm not sure the difference, but I guess it's just a name. Usually 5 to 7 people. And at the county, you have your county council members. One county chair, one at large, and then the rest are territorial, Southeast Volusia, West Volusia, Northwest Volusia, etc. There are two organizations that are kind of twinned with each other. One is called the Volusia League of Cities, which I guess is an offshoot of the Florida League of Cities, where it's like things that have to do with how to help municipalities and trending issues like water, sewer, taxes, transportation, etc. And then you have another organization called the Volusia Council of Governments. And I noticed that it became more of a us versus them, where mayors and commissioners and even city managers were challenging the authority of the county council on things like CRAs. There was a movement when Ms. Denys actually was voted into office the first year about putting in a more restrictive CRA, one that would be more towards government projects, public projects, buildings, and not as much as a feed on the street and festivals and pub crawls and things like that. Do you think people really understand that taxpayer dollars go into this second layer of government, and do we need it? Is your job to talk to each other, or do you need to have paid administrators and have these meetings? Mr. Kenny, I'll go with you first.
First off, and I have the ability to talk really fast, and I want to talk really fast because there's a lot I want to say, if you guys don't mind. But first of all, going back to the first question that you asked, I want to say this about the partisanship. At our municipal levels, partisanship has zero place. Now, you may argue that, but I'd like to point out that our municipal governments really are about roads, sewage, issues like traffic, things that affect all of us in a very bland, nondescript way. What happens is municipal governments sometimes take on controversial projects, such as the CRA, and then you bring in the ideological part of it, and then the parties attack. And I think that municipal governments would be much more efficient without that. You had asked, I think there's not a place for partisanship in the municipal governments from an ideological standpoint. Now, answering into your question about the CRAs, no, I don't think most people understand that how the dole is on with the CRAs.
We'll get into the CRAs.
But that's what you just asked.
Right, no, I was saying about how there was this looming battle about... Right, what I wanted to...
Okay, I can tell you this.
Hold on.
Yeah, VCOG and
right, and VLOG. To put into perspective for the audience, what I want to try to get stressed is that, for example, in nonpartisan races, you have, I know that, for example, I have to give kudos to the Republican Party of Volusia County. I was very supportive of them in the election 2 years ago. The Stan Escudero worked really hard, the base was there, and Mitt Romney carried Volusia County in what was clearly an Obama state. None of the Democrats were at Michelle Obama's Ocean Center appearance in the days leading up to the election. And by the way, since I outed Mr. Kennedy as a Democrat, Mr. Machuga, you're a Republican, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With that said, one of the things that I noticed in relationships that I never could understand were like, Frank Bruno's a very hardcore Democrat. Glenn Ritchie's a Republican. Adam Berenger, the mayor of Smyrna Beach, Republican. You had parties where it didn't seem to matter when it came to issues like, we don't want to fund Votran, that's the county's problem, but we want the county to give us CRAs. How do you settle that, Mr. Machuga?
One of the things that's settling that is you have to understand when you get back to the party issues, as you were indicating. On a smaller level, being in the city and the county, if you keep it what's best for the people still, left and right, the separation of a house divided will fall or whatever. We have that in all our lives, it's proven. You need to focus on the essentials that the county is supposed to be doing not getting involved in statewide levels. That's not our position. Our position is to take care, and our responsibility of the county government is to take care of basic needs for Volusia County. Not to impose our views because they become, how would I want to say, fashionable, to make statements about issues of Obamacare. We have no control over Obamacare at the county level. So to bring those issues up, and some of the questions even you're bringing up, Henry, are very good questions, but they're not concerned for the citizens. We have to take, excuse me, we have to take care of ourselves first, and then move forward. Issues that we need to address are easily addressed openly and logically. When the parties get involved, you become a problem. They're almost like an attorney in a contract. Everything is good between two people, but then you bring the attorneys in, what if this, then all of a sudden, political people, I'm a very firm believer in the Republican Party. There's a lot of good people in the Republican Party. There's a lot of good people in the Democratic Party. Separate the party issue, work together. A question I'd like to bring up that was mentioned simply because I have a lot of history in this. When we're talking about the Shiloh projects and launch projects and everything here, I come from a steel built country. The world's always going to need steel, but they don't always need to get it from our area in Pittsburgh area development. The same thing, we are all worried about this rocket launching technology and everything else. This is global right now, and I'm getting off what I'm saying about this.
We're going to get into that later.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
I'd like to try to stick to the topics.
But that's the topic, keep it
Well,
low.
you said that Obamacare is not part of the equation locally, but let me challenge you on that as a candidate. Yes, Mr. Candidate Machuga, with respect, with all due respect, with the utmost respect. We have 3 indigent care hospital districts in Volusia County. You serve on a foundation. You don't serve on the indigent care board. No. But you serve on a foundation that helps raise funds for the local hospital, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We have 3 advertising authorities. Advertising authorities, for those who may not know, are entities where money is brought in from people who stay overnight in a hotel or private condo or single-family home accommodation that's given out as a rental. And a certain percentage goes to the county, a certain percentage goes to the state, we're not going to get into the numbers, and a certain percentage comes back to the tourism district to create activities to supposedly put heads in beds, although I've never found anything in the statutes that relates to heads in beds. But as far as the health care, we have a lot of people that don't have insurance even now, and the services, the Rape Crisis Center, Tomoka with drug addictions, those are all health-related issues. How much can the county absorb without getting help from, say, the cities and some of these areas, including boat train and transportation?
One of the things that's essential in this, I'm old, you see the gray hair. We have sometimes, how would I want to say, made mistakes by trying to push off family care, children care. I have a special needs son. And this is why I can clarify this. I was a practicing physician up in western Pennsylvania. I was old, had a young son. When he was 6 months old, he was described to never walk, stand, or talk. Okay? Well, that's my responsibility. He is my responsibility. No state programs, no county programs. He is my son, my wife's son. He's our child. You take care of him. Same thing when you get into these different programs. Everybody's trying to push the burden of responsibility to someone else. And that's what we have to change. We have to, in the meeting here in Oak Hill, take care of your own first. Then look, don't shirk the responsibilities to someone else. When you start talking about health care, CRAs, and all these things, look in the mirror. That's the solution to the problems we have today.
Okay. Candidate Kennedy, along the lines of what Mr. Machuga eloquently outlined here, in all fairness, in terms of fiscal and Volusia tax reform, we'll get into that, and Dana Swanson will get into the issue of the palmetto curtain and territorial affairs, but we have the distinction of being the only county in Volusia. Volusia County is the only one of the 67 counties, 64, 67, I never get that number right, but 67, I believe, counties. We are the only one that have multiple taxing districts of hospitals, there's 3 of them. We have 3 advertising authorities. We have, 14, 15, 16 CRA districts. What about consolidation of the ad authorities? Kennedy, I know that's a big ticket item that a lot of people don't want to touch for territorial reasons.
Well, you're right, Volusia County is very unique in that perspective. My personal feeling is we don't have to have 3 ad authorities to accomplish the goal of the ad authorities. Why they split it up is probably a political story that can be told from way back when they first passed the legislation. Right. But look, it's very simple. Promote tourism that puts heads in beds. That's a pretty simple mandate. I'm not in the marketing business, but I know just enough about it to know that that's pretty simple. My approach would be to consolidate it into one, and I would hire advertising agencies to do the mandate, and I would have an oversight board that would vote on who gets hired and who gets fired in terms of those agencies through the county purchasing policy, be a bid process or the scoring process, like they would choose a construction contractor or whatnot, and eliminate the layers and layers of expenses, having 3 heads and whatnot, and take the politics out of it. Because now what we have, and I know they don't want to hear this probably, but the rest of us, the little guy on the street that's working, we want the benefit of that ad authority because it's taxpayer supported. Get rid of all the bureaucracy and take the politics out of it. So now you have these 3 separate ad authorities that are appointed by people. They're not elected by any of us. They're appointed. That isolates them from the people. The people can have the opportunity at least to elect us every 4 years. If we're doing something wrong you don't like, you have the opportunity to vote us out. But these appointed people, not so much. So you have these 3 separate boards with these appointed people, and it just allows for more fraud. It allows for more stretching of the mission. You know, the mission is to put heads in beds and advertise that industry so that we have, trickle down and spillover jobs from that industry that supports our communities. So, yeah.
Kennedy, Machuga, I'm 52 years old. Life is going by pretty quickly. Back in the big 80s, as we call it, with the MTV generation, VH1, we came down to Daytona for spring break. MTV, it was on the beach, it was rowdy, it was crazy. What about now? There's all this development going on in Daytona, these big high rises, there's all the hype about it's going to be the Nirvana. And we heard this 2 decades ago with Ocean Walk shops and the expansion of the Ocean Center a few years after that, and redoing of the Adams Mark. And, when does it end in terms of what we call the political insiders and the big money that's moving around? And I want to add one more thought, and just for perspective, that Volusia County is clearly identified as the 3rd highest taxed in the state of Florida. That's not disputable. And that 3rd highest revenue of taxing generates the 3rd lowest from the 67 counties in revenue produced. So how long can we continue with these specialized tourism districts? And do we really need ad authorities, Candidate Machuga? Don't people just come here because they love the beach and they love NASCAR or just to come to Florida?
Here's the answer to the question. This is the true answer to the question why people come to New Smyrna Beach, nobody heard, Volusia County, anywhere. The answer is very simple. When you look at it for real, it's because they have the money. That's the only reason. If you don't have the money, you can't come. If you have the money, then you make a decision. Tourism hasn't changed. I was one of those northern people that wintered down here for 6 months and 9 months and flew back and forth to work every week because we had the money. They marketed up here, all the tourism marketed to the people up north. Well, they forgot one little thing. The people up north had jobs that they were marketing to. People like in Michigan, where all of a sudden 1 million people leave town because there's no work. The ad authorities have to do this. My statement I made earlier, look in the mirror. The hotelers, the people that have the condos that rent them, that take care of their people properly, have referrals. The advertisement doesn't help them. They're taking care of their own business. The problem is, let's have an advertising authority that's gonna bring everybody here. Take care of the people when they're here, treat them nicely, and guess what? They're gonna come back. Second oldest city, I've heard this how many times in our area. Well, folks, if you were doing all the right things and it was nice, we don't need an advertising authority after this many years unless it was a brand new city. Then put it on the map.
Well, let me jump
in here.
Let me jump over, because
And I don't
we
mean
have a lot of ground
to
to
take
cover.
up the time, but these
No,
are
I
things.
understand.
No, this is
hard.
Well, this-
I feel bad interrupting and being rude, but, you know, we have a lot of ground to cover.
I would just add to
Yeah,
what
please.
David's saying, because I agree with him. But rolling it back, the state of Florida passed this legislative years ago. So the state mandates now by law that we have these ad authorities. So to roll them up completely and get rid of them would be great, because then, talk about treating people nice, you take 10% off the price. When you come down here and you rent a hotel, they charge you 10%.
That's the overhead.
Take care of yourself, absolutely. And I'm in the landscaping industry, and nobody's giving, I'm not taxing and using, I don't get the benefit of being, by law, being able to tax you special so that I can promote my business. Why the tourism?
I want to move along now to probably.
We're going to answer these questions thoroughly.
Yeah, no, and
We're
I
gonna
know
go
you
hurry,
have.
Henry.
Well, but I
These
gotta
are-
get,
It's up to
I
them.
can't keep people all night.
It's up to them.
Let me ask you
Answer
this.
questions as long as they like.
I don't think it takes a rocket scientist, excuse the Shiloh reference, but I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that in 2014, we're midway through the year, that jobs are clearly the big issue. No matter if you're a doctor, a landscaper, a journalist. I know for myself, like you said, I came down from New York, New England, to work at the Daytona Beach News Journal for almost a decade. When they had the layoffs, when they built the News Journal Center, again, taxing, echo funding, the whole thing turned into a disaster, and 400 people lost their jobs. Where do you go if you're not? I mean, we'll get into the speedway issues in a little while, but, you know, T-shirts and tourism and cups with Dale Earnhardt's name on them, are those really the jobs we're looking for? What do we need to do to get to that next level, like Seminole and Orange? Please, Mr. Kennedy, go first.
I'm sorry.
First
You're a good young man.
of all,
The jobs.
I may be the first politician in a while that said this, but government doesn't create jobs, okay? Business people, people like you guys, all over the world, we create our own jobs. There isn't a single county council person right now that created a job, okay? It's about hardworking Americans taking risk, starting businesses, hiring people, going out on a limb a little bit, and taking care of themselves, as David says, okay? I mow grass for a living. Why? Because it pays the bills, and I like it, okay? I'm willing to work hard, and I'm not above doing whatever it takes to support my family.
Well, Kennedy, Machuga, let me ask you this, and that was excellent in terms of the timing. I just want to try to pick these up a little bit. Kennedy, Machuga, you're more intimately familiar with probably the biggest and most important project on the beach side of New Smyrna, which is clearly in District 3, probably in the last 3 decades, and that was the building of the Hampton Inn on Flagler Avenue.
Yeah.
Very beautiful structure. Everybody thought, oh, it's going to be this abomination. It turned out very, very good. But come on, 5 years. You know, Serafina and I were at every one of the hearings. We shot over 150 videos of continuances, potential litigation. We even ended up in Tallahassee because like 50 projects, large-scale projects, were ground into a halt because there's all kinds of issues with government bureaucracy and planners and that such not doing their job and simply sending things up to Florida to get the signatures on them. What about the red tape? You're saying government's job isn't, but what about helping to, and is there too much of a, well, in the second part, is there too much of a giveaway of taxes or tax abatements to get these companies to come here? In other words, oh great, we got 300, we got 300 people's jobs here, but you're not going to pay taxes for 20 years. Where's the trade-off for you?
Can I answer
Yes,
that
please.
question first? Then you can.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we probably have similar answers.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're very simple. 2 things. In business and in government, government basically is good as people inside the government that create some problems. There's a few bad apples in every business, same thing in government politics. Let's face it. when you talk about the giveaways in business and development is this. Those people are shopping price. And I can state this specifically. I lived in the intersection in the area of I-80, which is from New York to California, and 79 from Erie, Lake Erie, down to, actually ties into 95. Now, that intersection for logistics and everything else, business towns, 7 trucking companies came in because we gave them a tax abatement. Guess what? 7 years later, when they had to start paying taxes, they went to another city that would give them tax abatements. All the properties were left vacant. The properties then did not produce any funds, and they were smart enough to talk to local people into, you build them, we'll rent them off you at a high dollar. Okay? So when you try to track businesses by price, and I'm trying to think, there was one politician that said one of our problems is, I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody good, I want to give him credit for it, but if you're attracting people by price, they're going to leave you for a price. They have no loyalty. And when you have a business, loyalty is your key. In other words, treat them fairly, treat them nice, they're going to stay. But if they're shopping price and they come to you, they're going to leave you for price. So when you talk about giveaways, folks, all you're doing is enticing the wrong people. And that's the problem. You have somebody who's worked all his life here, okay? And I don't know.
No, I agree. In my business, I don't want to be the low-cost provider, because it's exactly like you said. We focus on homeowners associations in my business. When they ask me to come for a bid, the very first thing I ask them, I look around and I say, why are you changing? And if they're honest and they tell me the price, I just look around and say, you know what? I can't do it any better than the guy you have now, and I'm just not, I wouldn't be interested. Because they leave me, there's no loyalty, and I have this investment and they drop me. And it's no different, it's what you're explaining about our area.
And the thing that'll happen is, he's been paying taxes here for a long time. Now all of a sudden, I'll put a group together, come in and do a landscaping business, and bring in 150 new jobs, get grants from another city, and put him out of business.
Right.
That's what this business is about, giving away things to people that aren't here. Take care of the people that are here. That is your community. That is Volusia County.
And if it's nice and done well, the other people will want to come and join it and move here and build housing and that kind of stuff. So.
Well, it sounds like we had an excellent...
One other thing
Sure,
with this,
please, quickly.
and this is when we talk about economic development and different things that we talk about, and it's very important. There's an adage in business, in the world, because it's human nature, is this: people go where people go, because that's where people go. And it sounds silly, it sounds stupid, but people go where people go. And we have some of the best areas here. I was in Palm Beach before I came here. Then I went to Stewart. We were lucky. God blessed us, we were lucky. We were able to work out north and winter in Florida and fly back and forth. New Smyrna Beach, brought here by my wife, brought here by Edgewater, got involved and saw how nice this was, but mismanagement, people's trust and loyalty, and I've watched this, and more I've watched this for over the years, is not right.
Okay.